Dawn. The industrial corn belt stretches to the vanishing point in every direction, a flat sovereign geometry of green and gold, unbroken by hills, uninterrupted by trees, no combine engines growling, no dust kicked up by a tractor, no boots in the mud, just the land, the pale sky, and a silence that feels almost wrong. Then it starts, a sound beneath the sound of wind, a high insectile frequency that builds from nothing into something you feel in your chest before you can name it. And then you see them, dozens, then hundreds, a coordinated black fleet lifting from the field margins in synchronized waves, carbon fiber rotors catching the early light, forming into geometric formations with mechanical precision. This is not a military exercise. This is breakfast for 300 million people. The American heartland, the engine of the global food supply, is being quietly handed over to autonomous aviation. What you are watching isn't a tech demonstration. It's the new normal. And almost no one who eats the food coming out of these fields has any idea it's happening. To understand what you're seeing in the sky, you have to understand what collapsed on the ground. The American farmer is statistically an old man. The average age of a principal farm operator in the United States now sits north of 57, and that number has been climbing for 30 years without interruption. The next generation left for cities, for code, for careers that didn't require betting everything on weather patterns and commodity futures. The agricultural workforce that remains is stretched across an acreage that has only grown larger as consolidation has swallowed small family operations into industrial-scale holdings. The labor scarcity crisis in American row crop agriculture isn't a coming problem. It arrived a decade ago. What changed is the industry's willingness to admit it. Think about the math at this scale. A single operation in Iowa or Illinois might manage 8, 10, 12,000 acres. At the margins of profitability that modern grain farming operates within, you cannot afford to miss a spray window. A corn fungal pressure event that breaks 3 days before harvest doesn't wait for your pesticide applicator to drive in from the county seat. A disease front moving through a soybean field at speed will cost you more in yield loss than everything you paid for seed if you respond 12 hours late. Human eyes cannot watch 100,000 acres. Human schedules cannot flex to a 36-hour weather window at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. The industry reached a hard structural limit, a point where the traditional model of the lone operator, reading the land and making decisions on instinct and experience, simply could not manage the math anymore. The algorithmic crop management systems didn't arrive because farmers were lazy or uninterested. They arrived because the alternative was failure. So what exactly fills the gap? The systems operating above the industrial corn belt today are not the hobbyist quadcopters you imagine when you hear the word drone. They are purpose-engineered, heavy payload drone swarms, octocopter platforms carrying 20, 30, sometimes 40 liters of liquid chemical in reinforced belly tanks, designed to operate in the brutal conditions of an open Midwestern field. High winds, temperature swings, electromagnetic interference from nearby grain elevators and power infrastructure. What makes them operationally transformative isn't the individual aircraft, it's the coordination. Multi-agent drone coordination means these machines are not flying independently, with a human joystick operator for each one. They are running a shared mission protocol, a distributed intelligence that assigns coverage zones, monitors overlap, reroutes around obstacles, and maintains formation spacing in real time. When one drone completes its tank load and returns to the ground support unit for refill, the remaining aircraft automatically redistribute their coverage patterns to fill the gap. The field never stops being sprayed. The targeting accuracy behind this is built on 2 pillars. First, precision multispectral imagery, typically gathered days or hours before a spray operation begins. The swarm's advanced scouts, smaller, faster mapping drones, fly the field and return a centimeter resolution picture of the crop canopy. Not just visible light, near infrared, red edge, thermal. These spectral bands reveal stress signatures invisible to human vision: early-stage nitrogen deficiency, moisture stress, the faint thermal bloom of a fungal colony establishing itself below the leaf surface. That map becomes a prescriptive flight plan. The heavy payload swarms don't blanket the field uniformly. They apply product precisely where the data says product is needed, a practice that reduces chemical volume per acre dramatically, while concentrating treatment exactly where it has therapeutic effect. The second pillar is RTK-GPS accuracy, real-time kinematic positioning, a satellite correction technology that narrows GPS location error from meters down to centimeters. When a drone executing autonomous aerial application knows its position to within 2 centimeters at all times, it can calculate spray drift mitigation dynamically, adjusting nozzle pressure, flight altitude, and speed in real time based on live wind vector data pulled from onboard anemometers. The chemical lands where the algorithm intends it to land, not where wind carries it. On a calm morning over a precision-mapped field, these systems achieve application uniformity that exceeds what a human applicator in a pressurized cockpit can deliver. And they do it in the dark if necessary. Here's the part of this story that the industry press release doesn't linger on. The farmers aren't flying these things. In the early wave of agricultural drone adoption, the model was farmer-owned equipment. A large operation would purchase a swarm package, put an employee through a Part 107 certification, and run operations in-house. That model has largely given way to something more structurally significant: the rise of the third-party agricultural aviation service fleet. These are companies, some venture-backed, some quietly acquired by the major agrochemical corporations, that operate regional fleets of hundreds of aircraft servicing client farms across entire states. The farmer contracts a coverage date, the fleet arrives, the field is treated, the fleet moves on. The farmer receives a digital report, geo-referenced and time-stamped, showing exactly what was applied, where, when, and at what rate. The farmer in this arrangement is a client, not an operator. The agricultural automation infrastructure supporting this model is substantial. Ground support vehicles, purpose-built logistics platforms carrying chemical tanks, battery swap stations, and maintenance equipment, move in convoy formation between farms on a precise schedule, keeping the swarms in the air with minimum downtime. Some of the larger operators run 24-hour shift cycles, flying through the night on fields illuminated only by drone positioning lights and the distant orange glow of grain elevator lights. The American Midwest, in other words, is being treated like an open-air logistics network. The fields are nodes, the drones are last-mile delivery vehicles, and the agrochemical product moving through that network is being applied with the kind of precision scheduling that Amazon applies to warehouse fulfillment. The data being generated in this process is staggering, and it flows upward. Flight logs, spectral maps, application records, weather correlations. This is agricultural data at a resolution and volume that has never existed before. The companies running these fleets are accumulating something more durable than service revenue. They are accumulating a real-time, continuously updated operational picture of the most critical grain production geography on Earth. Who owns that data? Who accesses it? How it shapes the decisions of input suppliers, crop insurers, commodity traders? These are questions the industry is only beginning to confront. Every video on this channel has been building toward a single argument. The farm, the actual place where food is grown, has become invisible. Not because it has disappeared, because it has been abstracted, moved behind glass, behind algorithm, behind autonomous systems operating at a remove from human hands. We started with the vertical farms inside Rotterdam warehouses and the climate-controlled strawberry labs of the Netherlands. We followed the logic into the deep infrastructure of indoor growing, the photon budget, the root zone chemistry, the HVAC precision. But the invisible farm was never only a building. It was never only an urban phenomenon. It is here too, in the flattest, oldest, most archetypal agricultural geography on the planet. The open fields of the industrial corn belt are now managed by systems that farmers from 50 years ago would struggle to recognize as farming at all. Automated aerial scouts, algorithmic crop management, swarms that communicate with each other at machine speed, chemical applications calibrated to centimeter-level GPS accuracy, field data flowing into corporate servers through agricultural automation infrastructure that spans entire states. The sky above the corn is the newest layer of the invisible farm. And this is not the last layer. This is the current frontier of a transition that has no obvious endpoint. The question worth carrying with you is not whether this is good or bad. The labor math and the climate math don't leave much room for a sentimental answer. The real question is, in a food system that increasingly operates without human hands in the loop, where exactly does human judgment live? And who, ultimately, is responsible when the algorithm is wrong? Every video on this channel is a node in a larger map we are building together. If you've watched to here, you already know what kind of viewer you are. Subscribe. Hit the bell. Leave a comment letting us know which coordinate we should map next. We'll see you inside the invisible farm.